Alright, now I am going to go over the justification and the feedback to the student for the assessment of Carrie Ratterman here. So for the first number of pages section, I gave her full credit because there are 5 pages here and one home page. And then I go to the content, and it says that each page must contain appropriate text and images that provide information and value to the target audience, which she did, and I responded with each page contains text and images, but the landing page doesn't tell me what the site's about. So when I get here, it just says, welcome to my website. I don't know what the requirements of the project were, but I didn't take any points off. I just said maybe put some information about what the site is about. So all this stuff here is about her photography, and it's got text about the images, and at the bottom here, so we got the same thing here. Here's a description of the videos that she's added, and then the contact information if anybody wants to get a hold of her. And then for the Section 508 compliance, I gave her full credit because there aren't any glaring contrasting colors or any flashing video GIFs or anything like that that make it hard to look at. The only thing that I said, well, I didn't say that, but that bright blue is kind of hard to look at, but I didn't take any points off. So moving on to the required elements, she has everything, so I gave her full credit, and I'll show evidence of the table utilizing effective data, which would be at the bottom of her photography page right here. And then the next section is one embedded video or audio file, and at the top she has 4 video files. And the next is one email link, which is at the bottom of the page here, and it says one external link, which is this. If you hover over the Twitter widget here, it takes you to her Twitter, so that would be an external link. And then one form, which is in the contact information right here. So moving on to meta tags, titles, favicon. So if I open up her Carrie Ratterman, she has a meta tag here, she's got a title here, and then she's got the favicon here, but I don't see the favicon here. I didn't take any points off because I don't know much about favicons. I just know that that is kind of evidence of it, there not being one, I guess. From what I've researched, that's a favicon, and that's just a standard missing, but I didn't give her points off because I saw evidence in the HTML. So moving on, the disqualifiers project does not contain any of the following: scripting. I gave her 17 points because I don't know much about scripting, but I know at the bottom of this page it does say script. There's a script tag, and it's referencing JavaScript here for the Twitter widget. So I took points off for that. Again, I don't know much about scripting, but I looked up the script tag, and it says that is scripting. So I took 3 points off for that. But all this other stuff doesn't apply here. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of any of this stuff. So moving on to validation, I gave her 10 because there was an error in the CSS, but the HTML checked out fine. So I'm gonna show evidence of that right now with the HTML. So Control A, Control C, go here, Control V, check it, and there was one in the HTML. There is a warning for the char site attribute on script element is obsolete. It says that is obsolete. I didn't take any points off for that. I just threw that in there and said that it was obsolete because it's not an error. So now moving on to the CSS. To the top, she does have 6 styles. When I get to that, I give her credit. She has more than 6 styles, but I'm going to select all this and copy it and throw it in CSS, Control V, check it. And there is one error here with the attribute .parent. So I found an error, so I took off. There's an error here. I took off because it says one page have CSS or HTML validation errors, so that's what I did there. And the feedback was that I just said that she had that. There was evidence. So the visual appeal, like you said in your video, is a subjective thing, and I gave her 8 points out of 10. Again, I don't know what the requirements were, but I know that when I come to a home page like this and there is so much emptiness on the page, it's just a giant picture and a little bit of text and all this negative space down here, Visually is pretty boring and empty. And this blue link color here, I took off for that. And I have to say now, from what I understand, it's making a comeback, but the Comic Sans font up here is a little hideous to me. And then also when you go to the video here, it's just blocked videos stacked on top of each other. There's no maybe some text underneath to break up the monotony, to add a little interest and give a little context as to what's in the videos. It wouldn't just be a blocky looking website, or I'm sorry, video page. So moving on to class presentation, I did watch her presentation, and out of 20 points, I had to give her 10 because there was no evidence of her talking about the challenges that she faced in creating the site, and she didn't mention whether or not she took into consideration or even what the feedback from her students or her peers was. So she didn't give any evidence of that, and it says to in here, but she showed how she met all the other rubric requirements, so I wrote that into the justification here, so I had to take half off for that because it says one or two more required topics were not addressed. So moving on to the copyrighted images, I didn't find any evidence of anything that wasn't that was copywritten. Total points, I gave her 115. I guess from what I understand, this is at 120. I didn't write down the math on that. But the general feedback overall, your website was executed well. You just came short on a couple of the requirements, especially in the screencast. That was what I gave her. Now moving on to the sample project number 2, I'm going to close out of this and go back and go to this website right here and start what I did with the 10 points here, 5 points. There are only 4 pages, so you have a home page and then these pages here. So that's pretty straightforward. You only have 4 pages. Student only has 4 pages right here, missing a page, 5 points. Now moving on to content. It says each page must contain appropriate text and images that provide information and value to the target audience. I might be splitting hairs here, but when you go to the portfolio, it says photo packages, and it says what services are available, which seems to be that it should be in here. So that would be the proximity of this would probably need to be lined up in here. And I'll have to go back because I forgot to talk about the proximity, the alignment, and the repetition, and the contrast of Carrie's site. So I'll talk about it here. The repetition on this site, when I get to, I guess I'll just skip ahead a little bit since I'm here on Visual Appeal. I have to talk about the repetition. So when you go to each page, except for the contact page, there is this picture here, and on the Visual Appeal I would give points off of that, and I'll talk about that because of the distortion, the vertical distortion. These pictures were not formatted very well. They're just squashed in there and they look bad. That one looks okay. So going back up to the content, so again, the portfolio here, this doesn't really have anything to do with our portfolio, and then down here, without mentioning the word portfolio at all, there's some pictures here that take you to take you to the pages that don't work, and then right here, the scenic view, this image doesn't even show up here, so I had to take off 2 points for that, because every other page was appropriate and seemed to deal with the content. So moving on to the section 508, there's nothing here that's glaring, contrasting, hard to look at, nothing that'll cause seizures or anything like that, so I just gave full credit on that. And then going down to the required elements, I gave 10 points on this because contained one table utilizing data effectively, which is evidence right here in the packaging, and no embedded audio or video file. There's nothing here to watch or listen to. It says one email link is down here. There's no external link. The only link that I get is the email link. So, and she did, or he, whoever made this page, did include a form with 4 fields here in the contact information with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I gave 10 points off for that because missing 1 or 2 required elements, and that's what I said pretty much verbatim right here. Now moving on to the meta tags and titles. Favicon, is this the